Okay. Um, that was hilarious. Anyway, I was telling Ashwin that I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing intros to this episode at this point. Anyways.
जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be these clothing.
என் பேர் மாணிக்கம் எனக்கு இன்னொரு பேர் இருக்கு
Talking to me?
The queen is dead.
Hello, and welcome to a very special For the Girls episode of Queen is Dead that is being done by three people who are not girls, as is QID tradition. We are, of course, talking about the cult classic, The Devil Wears Prada, on the occasion of the release of its sequel, The Devil Wears Prada 2, which is currently in theaters. I am joined by a very not girl and doing this intro for the third time, Ashwin. Hi, Ashwin. How are you?
I'm good, and you're doing great. This is fun actually.
It is. And also not girl and friend of the show, Vikas. Hi, Vik. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it. For the
Of
third
course.
time today. Yeah.
Indeed, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so The Devil Wears Prada is directed by David Frankel, with the screenplay written by Aline Brosh McKenna, and was based on the popular Romana Clef novel The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger. It stars Stanley Tucci, Meryl Streep. Again, very, very. Dhruv is gonna get so mad at me for saying Stanley Tucci before any of the women in the film for a women's film. But that's the misogyny bit for you, Dhruv. But Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt. It was originally released in 2006. Cinematography by Florian Ballhaus, edited by Mark Livolsi, music by Theodore Shapiro, and the sequel maintains the similar team minus the editor, who's different in the sequel, which is Andrew Marcus. The film follows, I'll just read the summary off of IMDb. I'm just introducing the film so that we can talk a little bit about the first film, sort of our thoughts on it, how we sort of came to it, what we think of it. Also, because this episode is being dubbed the Girls Who Get It episode, because the girls who don't, which is namely people like Dhruv, Amartya, and Varun, are not allowed on this episode. So the IMDb summary of it goes, with an aspiration to become a journalist, Andy, a smart but sensible young graduate, travels to New York. She starts working as an assistant to one of the city's biggest high fashion magazine editors, the cynical Miranda Priestley. For anyone unaware, the novel was a fictionalization of the author's actual experience as assistant to Vogue editor Anna Wintour, who's a very prominent personality in the fashion world in New York, especially, or across the world. And here, Anna Wintour is fictionalized as Miranda Priestley. I'm going to I think I'll throw it to Vikas. I think you were very passionate about joining us for this episode. So I want to know, where does, your interest for the film come from, and how did you come across it, and so forth? Yeah.
So the first film I came across, I think purely by its advertising campaign. And I remember the first trailer of it I saw was where Annie Hathaway's character was really, really stressed about getting coffee. And she's like, oh, you don't get a cappuccino or something like that. And then it just intrigued me. And then a friend of mine who had read the book at the time was excited about the movie. So that's how I kind of got introduced to it. But when I first watched the movie, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think for me, it was just good, mindless fun. It was like watching a Hollywood David Dhawan movie. Well, this is a good David Dhawan kind of movie, and it was mindless entertainment, and I really enjoyed it. And for the first time, I saw Streep in a comedic role. I have never really seen. I've pretty much seen most Streep movies prior to Devil Wears Prada, and every single movie she was always crying or making someone cry as an audience member or someone else. She was on fire in this movie, and she was very funny and if I can say this word, cunty in this movie, and I quite enjoyed that. And Emily Blunt was the reason that I loved the first movie, in all honesty, and is the reason that I love the second movie as well. I think her comedic timing was pitch perfect. And it was fun. It was frothy. Like I put it in my review, the first one was like a champagne bottle. It was very, sprightly and effusive and fun. So it was a good time. Yes, I enjoyed it. It wasn't great cinema, but it was good cinema. Yeah.
Sure. And Ashwin, first thoughts on the first one?
Yeah, the first film I probably got into it because of the Oscar nomination, I guess, like for Street. I don't exactly remember. That's probably how I might have reached there. And yeah, similar to Vic, I would say it's like great escapist fun. That brand of genre where like you follow a couple of characters in like New York City and their like troubles with work and this like it's very low stakes stuff,
Hmm.
like your boss is rude to you. That's the worst things that can happen, kind of a thing. So that subgenre of movies, it's really comforting to me. So that's how I got into it, and it was really good. And Street, all the characters are like all of the actors were great, and so many memorable one-liners, and it's just iconic. And I think I've rewatched it a couple of times with some friends. When you're like drunk and just watching random shit. So it's just I love it, but again, I wouldn't claim it as like some great piece of cinema or anything, but it's just good nonetheless.
No, I totally get that because I came across the film I think on TV only. It used to play on like whatever the English language channels quite a bit when I was growing up. So I watched it in bits and pieces over the years and then ended up actually watching it for proper maybe a couple of years back and rewatched it very recently. And again, I've heard a lot of arguments by some people who think that, a lot of people find it kind of bland relatively, not, to voice the sort of criticisms that people like Dhruv and Varun Amartya were having, that they find the direction a bit bland and maybe that it's neither frothy enough nor sharp of enough critique of the sort of industry it's in. But I found it to be very interesting in that it takes for what I find interesting about it is that it takes a very feminine coded subject very with a certain amount of seriousness, because there is a certain idea of disregarding or dismissing this kind of, especially fashion as an industry, especially if you compare it to like a film like, for example, Legally Blonde, which is about sort of women in what is considered to be like a traditionally masculine industry and things like that. So I thought it has a great balance of being like just a really fun frothy film, but one that also has a certain sentimentality but also critique towards a very glamorous kind of a world and seeing through that glamour, but also being equally and very unashamedly enamored by it. So I think that is what really worked for me. Apart from that, as you guys said, the performances are fantastic. The one-liners are very memorable. I think there is a reason why this film has had such a hold on the culture for 20 years now, with the sequel coming out. And I mean, a lot of that is also the sort of pop, resurgence these things have on the internet and the viral memes and the clips and all of those things. But I do think like I'm pretty sure I quoted the Cerulean monologue at least a couple of times in my life. But yeah, so I think I get that it's an endlessly rewatchable film to me. I think you can easily throw it on and it's just I was telling them that it's just a good time at the end of the day. I don't think that it's a great film though. I've heard a lot of people argue that it is like a leading example of certain kind of women's cinema and etc. And I'm sympathetic to those arguments, but I personally think that it's part of that kind of mid 2000s or like 2000s kind of women's cinema, chick flicks and that kind of stuff that was really big at that time and a valuable addition to that genre as such. Any other thoughts on it before we move on to the sequel or
Yeah, I think one of the aspects of this movie that is like different compared to this, this kind of movies is how they, like keep the romance kind of in the background. And I think there's a lot of discourse about the romantic subplot in this movie as well as in the sequel. We'll get to that, I guess. But yeah, like there are like theories, or not theories, like in people argue that the boyfriend is the villain of the movie. He's the one who's like holding her back and all those things. So, but for me, it's like I think one other movie that of the similar vibe to me is this How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, where again the protagonist is like a journalist at one of these kind of magazines. I don't remember exactly. Even in that movie, it is the romance that takes center stage, although it's like a workplace thing. I like how this movie like completely like avoids that part, that cliche, and just focuses on the work thing. And in the end of the movie, it's like I think her decision to choose that particular career, that job, is like more prominently highlighted than like her ending up with the guy or like patching things up with the guy or whatever. So I like that about it.
I mean, true. Vikas, have you heard this discourse? I mean, there's actually a lot of like think pieces on it, and it has been a thing that's been going back and forth about the boyfriend in the first film being the villain. Any thoughts on that per se?
I mean, obviously, all these people have not seen Kabir Singh or Animal, so for them, this is the least villainous boyfriend that one can have. I think for me, just to coming back to what Ashwin was saying, I don't know if there's any other movie that has had a sequel with a 20-year gap, at least not to my knowledge. And Bill Simmons on his podcast who sort of run the Ringer podcast, and I said this is one of the most culturally influential movie in the past 20 years, and I agree with it. And I somehow defend the movies to the point that you were making, Chris, that this is an endlessly watchable movie. And by default, in my mind, it makes it a great movie because I don't know if anyone has watched, at least I have seen this movie 4 or 5 times. I just trying to think if someone has watched 4 or 5 times all the other, like The Queen, which was considered which came around the same time as a great time. I don't think anyone's watching Capote 6 or 7 times, or any of the movies that came out at that point. But this villainous boyfriend thing argument is interesting, but in the context of 2026, it's a bit tame. Like for me anyway, because I think like he's a cocky guy, he's insecure, and he's just another guy. Like there's nothing villainous
Yeah.
about it. It's just him being a guy. But yeah, so I'm not too much into that whole take, but I will defend this movie a lot because I do think it's a great movie now in 2026 because it has had a cultural footprint and an impact and a shelf life that not many movies can boast of. And even the movies that we all have may have anointed to be great at some point in time, but the fact that it's so rewatchable and so accessible easily talks to by default to me means it's great. Otherwise, people wouldn't go.
I mean, I had a question to go with that because there's something also that we were discussing is there is definitely a certain demographic divide when it comes to a film like The Devil Wears Prada. I mean, I joked about the girls who get it kind of a thing, but this is very much touted as, girls and gays cinema, and there
Yeah.
has been a certain. So do you think that the film is in a sense devalued by the fact that it appeals to or is because there's this idea that a great film will appeal to anyone no matter what background they come from, what interests they have. Do either of you think that the fact that this has a very certain demographic that it appeals to or has, done that makes it or it takes away from its greatness? Not to say that, you shouldn't make films or, films can't be great that appeal to certain people. I mean, as much value is there for, if specific demographics getting that films. But when you talk about how great the film is, do you think that devalues it in any kind of a way?
I mean, and for me, no. Otherwise, we would all just be watching Avengers endlessly, and that would be the end of, our life as we know it. But I think this is, and maybe initially the cult was that demographic, where it was limited to, like, say, women and gays who liked it. But I think now it's universal. And I'll give you a quick example. I watched this movie in Hyderabad, and I watched it on Thursday night to a completely packed house in Prasad IMAX Theatre in Hyderabad. And it was men, women, children, millennial, parents. And the minute Meryl Streep came out, everyone started whistling as if it was Salman Khan and Ekta Tiger. I'm like, what is going on? But like, this is Hyderabad and people are whistling for
Wow.
Meryl Streep. And they were not the girls who were whistling, I can guarantee you that. And then Emily Blunt comes back and they were like even hooting. And I'm like, hang on, this is not Shah Rukh Khan's Pathan entry or what is going on? I think this movie has now, maybe with time, broken those barriers, is my assessment of it. But yeah.
Yeah, Ashwin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I see. I don't think his greatness or the lack of it has anything to do with genre of the movie or like who it appeals to. Like, I mean, as Vic said, like the male escapes fantasies, superheroes, and they're just fighting something and just saving the day. And for women, I guess, like at least the kind of movies that they make where uh, in which they had to navigate love life and work life, and it's the whole Sex in the City, 30 Rock,
Yeah.
Friends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the whole thing. So in those genres, in all these genres, there can be great films. And I think this movie I don't particularly consider great because its writing is a bit, lacks character depth, and and even thematically, as you were saying, like it doesn't explore the fashion industry like as it could have, so it just kind of falls short of greatness, and whatever that word means, I guess.
Hmm.
And but yeah, I don't think the appeal of this demographic divide has anything to do with that. So,
But no, I
Interesting.
think
Yeah.
Ashwin, you make an interesting point. I think Sex and the City is a great example because I loathe everything about Sex and the City, and I just completely cannot stand it.
mhm.
And I know to Chris's point, that was a sort of a movie or a franchise that appealed specifically to women and LGBTQI plus, and they really embrace it, and I know they're obsessed with it. But I cannot stand it, and I know but Devil Wears Prada is something that kind of connected across all genders and all classes as well. So it wasn't just different kinds of people, all kinds of people kind of enjoyed this movie now in through with time. Maybe when it came out it was limited, but definitely now I think it's got a universal, it's got a lot more universal appeal than say a Sex and the City. Even Legally Blonde now has a lot more broader appeal, but I'll be, if you were to ask me, I can't find a one male friend of mine who would say, oh yes, I enjoyed Sex and the City, but they will still admit to liking Legally Blonde or Devil Wears Prada. So that's a very, I don't know what that says about what, but it's an interesting
Yeah,
observation.
I mean, with the Meryl Streep of it all and the Oscars and everything, so it has that prestige thing going for it, like compared
Possibly.
to the
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, yeah.
So like even like film bros types, they have to like get to it. Like that's how I got to it, like as I was saying. So because of that factor, like it's considered great. And I think it's one of the reasons why people who like eventually watch it like now are like through one and all. I think like they keep hearing about this movie as this kind of like a cultural artifact from the 2000s, and Oscar nominated performance and all that. So I think that's one of the reasons why they think it's a bit too shallow, because that it can't stand the reputation of that that kind of the prestige thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I also see that like the demographic thing is definitely there, but I also think that because of it, it makes it so much more pleasurable to the people who it clicks with. Like I
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it
Yeah.
doesn't go for access. I mean, it goes for accessibility in a really fun way. Like I think one of my favorite lines of that, and it's a great testament to that, is early in the film, Andy has a line when she's just joined Miranda's office and she used to pick up her first call and someone speaks on the phone. She goes, "Can you spell Gabbana?" that joke works on with a certain knowledge, but
Right,
if you
right.
know that, it is absolutely hilarious.
Hilarious.
So, I mean, not that the average person won't know about Dolce and Gabbana, but a certain investment in that space. So just a you
Yeah.
know kind of just a kind of interest in it makes a lot of difference. Yeah, and so I find it again very interesting that Ashwin, you say the film doesn't engage with the fashion industry much, because I think I'm going to use this as a moment, as a point to sort of pivot into the second film, because
True.
I'm going to be here disagreeing with you majorly, because I feel like the Devil Wears Prada one is very much invested in the
Yeah.
sort of space that it belongs to. It cares about the fashion industry. It's in conversation with a lot of what the industry is doing, as well as trying to be this kind of interpersonal drama and sort of critique in that kind of a thing. The sequel, on the other hand, takes a bit of a slight different approach to the matter. So I'm just going to read the IMDb summary of the film and then we can sort of go into that. For the Devil Wears Prada 2, like I said, the crew is mostly the same. So everybody else came back to reprise their roles. There's a couple of new actors who joined the cast, including Justin Theroux and Kenneth Branagh. And I don't know the name of that love interest, and I'm sorry, I don't care, because clearly the film does
Nobody
not.
knows actually. Maybe Vic knows he's Australian apparently.
I knew
I
this.
mean,
I should have come prepared, but I don't, unfortunately. But I know he's a good actor.
I'm sorry, Victor. Your
And
your
we don't
country of
need to.
stay is
Nobody
not
needs
sending
to
their
know.
bridge. You're
I
dead
know, I
best.
know. I'm not doing Australia proud, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, neither are they by sending him as the representative for being
At least
Anne
Simon
Hathaway's
Baker
love
was
interest.
Australian, by the way. Simon Baker is Australian, and he was pretty good in the first one. Yeah.
That's true. But the summary goes, Miranda Priestley navigates her career amid the decline of traditional magazine publishing and reunites with Andy Sachs to face off against a former assistant turned rival. So this film, I think I'm going to just start it off because I have a bit of sort of a criticism that I can start it off, and then I'll throw it to you guys and you can start with the comments on it and such. So for me, so the film, by the summary, is kind of a it's about it to me. The way I would describe it is it's a film clad in Prada that doesn't really care about it, which I wouldn't say about the first. Is that is to say that the film is very much set in the kind of area of publishing, and it's trying to do a larger social critique about the state of journalism and all of that. But I think in the process of trying to aim for something higher, it kind of forgets what place it's in. It to me loses a sense of place. So a lot of the sort of references or function, the idea of the brands that they were working with, the designers they were working with, end up becoming a cameo of Laura Roach or Donatella Versace in the back of different scenes. Or the one sequence that Stanley Tucci gets to dress Anne Hathaway up, where he mentions all the different brands that she has to have in her closet to take to the Hamptons, and which brands are appropriate to wear and which are not, which to me becomes a really surface level engagement with that industry. And at the same time, the fact that it is going for such a frothy thing, the critique of journalism in the industry also ends up feeling really surface level, because the film is trying to say, oh, Andy has had a career in publishing now. She's or in the news, and she's writing papers about the federal, about the Federal Reserve and all of these things. And now she's writing about fashion, but it doesn't go into what that transition looks like, what her writing is. It thinks that, gesturing at the critique is engaging with the critique. At least that's how I sort of felt with the film. And I was telling earlier as well that whatever criticism a lot of people have put against the first film is exactly how I felt about the second. And I know for a lot of people that this film also works. I mean, it's been getting pretty good responses so far. But I think that to me was a big barrier that, I mean, not to say that I don't like the film. I quite adore the film still because it is very enjoyable. But there to me, it loses that kind of classic rewatchability, that kind of a film that will remain a cult classicness to it by the way that it engages with its source material, but also with the kind of space that it is in. So that's my kind of opening, just so you guys can talk about it, respond to it. Ashwin, I'll throw it to you this time. Thoughts?
Yeah. So yeah, I get your point regarding not engaging with the fashion thing because as you said in the first film, that cerulean monologue is actually directed at the audience in some ways. Because as someone who's completely unaware of fashion even now, it is probably the only time I've ever felt okay, yeah, it might make an impact on the regular people unknowingly or however. So I get that it actually tries to do something to play, find show the place of that industry in world at large. And I agree that you the whatever current threats that this industry and general media or all kind of journalism is facing today, what they're showing in the second movie is just they're just pointing it out. They're not solving it or anything. But I still feel like it's kind of because of the limitations of this escapist genre. I mean, it's not like a hard hitting a Todd Haynes movie, where they can just point fingers and mark Ruffalo and yell and they knew about it, they're it's not that kind of a movie. It's just still, what do you say, it's just a fun time. They're just still aiming for the fun time at the movies thing. So what I liked about it is the fact that it just really sidesteps the legacy sequel, rethreading bullshit. I would say I think the worst case in example, not the worst, a very common example of this would be the Force Awakens, which is a very enjoyable movie, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. But it just beat by beat, it just follows the first episode 4, a New Hope. Actually, it just doesn't. It's too afraid to do anything to scare the fans. Well, the next movie scared the fans, and we know what happened. That's a different story. But so when I think of legacy sequels, this is the Force Awakens is what I think of, and a lot of such sequels try to do that. Like it will just try to invoke the same tones and same characterizations from the previous films. But here, I felt like they actually asked, like, what if these people actually aged, like, 20 years? And how would they have changed what happened to the industry over the 20 years? And in this particular moment in 2026, if they were working in the current industry, how would they react to it? So the way, like, Miranda's character changed, like, for example, like in the first movie, she's the devil. Like she actually embodies the titular character, but here she's very tame actually. Like she doesn't like snap at people a lot. Like there's not a lot of like that's all in this, and there are not many like pointed insults. She isn't calling anybody fat or like so for which they have an explanation. Like for her to survive in this industry and like fit into it, she has to do it. Like there is, which I think like it's really funny how they used like Simone Ash's character, her second assistant, first assistant, I guess, like who has to actually sit in with her in meetings and correct her whenever she says something like, politically incorrect. So I like that, like they sacrificed the iconic one-liner thing of the original movie just so they can do something different and address the current scenario. And this applies to all characters, I guess. And even what do you say, like the regarding the romance thing, which I guess we'll talk about it later, I guess. So yeah, so when they had every opportunity to like just keep the exact same structure of the first movie and Meryl Streep yell at everyone like and you know concoct like new like brand new insults like they do in like Succession and all, but they didn't do that. They went for a very what do we say, kind of a wistful tone, like it's like kind of like it has a very low energy. Like I think I described to you as like geriatric or something in the group chat, like so that energy, I am like I admire that actually they had the courage to go to that register to address something that they thought is important in the current moment. So that's how I feel about it. It took me like some 15-20 minutes for the movie to like get into that register because like I was expecting the energy of the first movie, but once I got used to it, it worked quite well for me. It has its problems and it's quite reductive in the way how it handles all these threats and problems of the media consolidation and the dependence on like digital footprint and all that. But it was a fun time, and I like that they took this route. Yeah, that's my two
Vic?
cents.
I actually, I don't know if one of my favorite movie critics in the world is Stephanie Zachrach, who in her review in Time magazine sort of said that the first movie actually does show a lot of disdain towards the fashion industry, and the second one is actually very protective, in fact, affectionate towards the fashion industry. And I can see why people think the first movie engaged with the fashion industry more because they name drop Oscar de la Renta and Chanel, and she goes, Chanel boots and all those sorts of things. And I think at some point Louis Vuitton is mentioned. But also in 2006, haute couture was inaccessible to everybody. And the one thing that I love about this movie is how self-aware it is in how it was in 2006 and how self-aware it is in 2026. So all like I was watching with my sister and a friend, and they were like, every time the characters wore something, we're like, oh, this is a Balenciaga one, and this is a Louis Vuitton, and this is Schiaparelli, and this is Stella, and like they knew it because back in 2006, no, not many people necessarily knew what the hell was. They just saw some good outfits and someone told them that this is great. And, I remember a friend was saying that, well, she's saying it's great. So I'm sure it would be great because they just assumed that, it was thing. But this movie is very self-aware. And I think it engages with the fashion industry extremely well, having whatever little bit of noise that I have it, because it understands and picks up on those nuances between haute couture, quite luxury, mass produced stuff like Louis Vuitton and Gucci, and what those brands are doing and how they are trying to get their target markets versus how those very specific other brands are doing. And it engages and packages all of those things very well. I agree with Ashwin that, and I actually think it's a very clever decision that the Miranda Priestley character is not as cunty as she was in the first one, because she is in 2026. We are in the post woke identity politics, politically correct world, and she cannot be. There's this dialogue where she goes that she has a lot of HR complaints because she used to throw her bags at people or her jackets at people. And this movie captures those self aware moments really well. And I actually really like it. And I do concede that it is naive in its politics, it is naive in all the arguments it's trying to make ideologically. But I think it does one thing very successfully is that it brings those topics into the conversation, which I would rather prefer versus having a very deep, in depth, because no one will take these topics seriously, a cinema audience, so to speak. But so if they're fleetingly going on it in a very superficial way, I'm fine with it. So I actually I agree with Ashwin that it has its problems, but I think it does has a lot of successes as well, which I will definitely applaud and defend. But also, having said that, I read some of the reviews from my Indian critics like Sucharita Tyagi and Anupama Chopra, and they were like, and it just made me cringe. And they were like, this is, I'm missing this, and it is seductive and listless and soulless. I'm like, no, just don't leave these people alone because you don't get it. And this is one of the other things. It's not everyone will get this kind of cinema because it's not for everybody, but everyone has an opinion, and that's the world we live in. Yeah.
No, I mean, I find it very interesting, and I wonder what you also think about it, Vikas, because I think there's an interesting thing that Ashwin brought up, which is the question of the legacy sequel, right? Because I was thinking exactly the opposite, that not to say that the film doesn't do anything interesting. I was just like, this is exactly this plot beat that happened at this moment in the last film. There's the and spoilers in general, because I'm going to talk about it. There's the accident thing that happens midway through the film. In the one, it's Emily Blunt getting hit by a car, and this it is Irv dying. You
Dying, yeah.
have the trip in the foreign trip in the third act, the fashion montage that goes along with it. You have the this one Stanley Tucci like dressing up section. You have the Miranda Priestley being upset in the towards the end. You have the Andy trying to save Miranda. I feel like it does go by the plot beats like I could see them very exactly, like they had that we want to do this, but I can accept that they did something interesting with it. Like it doesn't feel like a retread of the first film. Like that I will not disagree with at all. I think it definitely does kind of function on that similar sort of caricaturish level. You've got the archetype of the finance bro CEO versus the Ozempic laden losing his mind kind of this thing versus the kind of girl boss CEO kind of that dynamic and all it's got. It works at that level of broad caricatures, which I definitely think is a sort of something new that it does. And I think at the end of the day, I think what works, and I think all of us will agree, is that the interpersonal drama is just really, really solid. I think it carries forth from the first film. I think it fundamentally understands the dynamics between these characters. There's a big reveal at the end of the film about how Anne Hathaway came to have this job at Runway again. So
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway comes back to Runway after she loses her job, and there's
It
one
was like a
scene which
Dhurandhar
tells you.
2 twist. But anyway, sorry, yeah.
Sure, sir. But it gives you that twist. And I properly teared up when you find that out.
Yeah.
Because, and again, and it does a similar thing with the Nigel character at large, where you get that tearing up moment where Miranda sort of lets him down in the first film. And you get the parallel to that when she sort of learns from mistakes. I think
Yeah.
it retreads its moments pretty smartly is I think the one praise I can give. It feels like a legacy sequel to me, but
Mhm.
it's not a legacy sequel derogatory. It's a legacy sequel like
Yep.
appreciative
Yeah.
kind of a thing. But yeah, performances, I think, thoughts on it. I think this is like the one thing that we all have nothing but praises to talk about. But like, please, any thoughts on them?
Yeah. For me, it was Emily Blunt. In the first one as well, I think the minute she said, "Are you going to a hideous skirt convention?" and in this one, her comic timing is incredible. It's impeccable, and there's this hidden vulnerability that she shows. Like even in the ending, when she's going from Dior to Coach, and she's still very prim and proper at the restaurant, and he with the blonde hair and platinum blonde hair, and you're like, my God, she is. Like Blunt will to me is a absolute standout, and it's just I probably like the movie more because of her, and every time she comes up on screen it kind of lights up her stares, her expressions, quiet glances. Fantastic. I am not as big on Anne Hathaway's performance in this one as everybody else is. Streep also is again good, and I think with what she's given, she's done really well. But I think Hathaway tries a little too hard. Again, not bad at all, completely watchable. Stucci again is always dependable. I think as the assistant, the Simone Ashley character, she's pretty effective. I thought again all the supporting cast were all very good, but it's a blunt movie for me all in all.
That's
Ashwin,
interesting.
thoughts?
I mean, yeah, again, I like all of them. I still like Street more than everyone else, I guess. Because like as Chris was saying, yeah, like I agree with you on the whole beat by beat thing. And to me, like it feels different because of the tone and how it's edited. Like, for example, in the first film, we had that, remember the court montage, like and the whole montage where like she goes in searching for that Harry Potter book. So everything feels like a tense thing. So like that tone has shifted. I think that's why I feel like it's like a completely different kind of a thing movie. Anyway, like speaking of the tone thing, like Streep's performance is also like very considerably different in this movie compared to the first one.
Yeah,
Like I think she has said that she modeled the first movie's performance on like Clint Eastwood. Like he apparently speaks in like very hushed tone and but still incredibly intimidating. Like instead of like yelling at people, he will speak in that tone and like but people will get scared of it apparently. So from that to this movie, there's a huge difference actually. This in this movie she feels like weak actually and vulnerable and she seems to be tired of everything like you can feel that she's been doing it for a while and now there are too many constraints and she feels powerless and all which they've incorporated in the like movie as well in the dialogues again like she doesn't do the that's all thing like too many times. They do it only just once in this movie, and I'm so like glad that they showed that restraint in writing, and they showed it at just one moment where she's like at the lowest. And even when she's like snapping back at Emily Blunt's character at one point and say like, you're not a visionary, you're a vendor, and it hits. And they're not doing it too many, but in those moments it works, and in other moments you can feel her like powerlessness. So I really, really like it. Like it's not like a hot take to like praise Meryl Streep, but just she's Meryl Streep. It really works for me. As for Hathaway, like she's so incredibly likable, and at this age not her age, the character's age, if someone is so like, lively and like, like with heart of gold, I could find such a character very irritating. Like if many actresses do it, like I would find it extremely irritating, like a 40-year-old woman, like so like, finding positivity everywhere and in everything I would be kind of annoyed but she can do it like so although it feels like a very effortless thing I appreciate that performance and Blunt is like great as always like I think her character her performance is very similar to the first movie as well like she's the one who has changed the least I guess in terms of the tone of the performance so I liked it and I like how Justin Theroux is like doing a caricature thing. It's
yeah,
fun.
It's what
I mean,
Elon Musk coded.
I don't know if it's. I mean, they didn't want to point one specific person. I guess like I mean the whole X5 thing is like uh Jeff Bezos.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's good. I liked it actually.
No, it's interesting. I mean, Emily Blunt, I think my favorite moment. It's very random, but it's she there's a moment in the when so in the film when they're trying to sell Runway, they're trying to save Runway from being sort of scrapped or have their budgets cut. And she's talking to Justin Theroux, and she has this moment where she does this gesture. She's like, we should have a new cover girl for Runway.
That's awesome. It's a great moment.
She does these. I'm so sad you can't see us on video right now, listeners, because the three
This
of us
should
are
be a
having.
YouTube review, not a
She does
podcast.
this.
Yeah.
She, it's amazing, and I think my mom's favorite line was it's the kind of relief. This is the last line. I think it's the last line of the film that shared carbs don't have calories or something like
yeah.
that, and you
Don't
get this
carb
real.
shame me somewhere like she said.
Yeah.
And you have these really lovely quips, and I think, yeah, I think the character that makes the most sense to me in that sense is, I mean, is Streep. I think also in the writing, like the performance, I don't think you have to say anything about at all. I think saying is taking away from it more than anything else. But I think they write Miranda, I think, really well. Going again, like the parallels also they do quite well, but it's that world weariness, and I think you feel it with Hathaway. I think for me, the moment it sets in is when she walks out of that Dior office after a conversation with the Emily Blunt character. There is this utter like just despair that Andy experiences, like what has happened to this kind of
Mm.
this person. And I think Streep sells it so well because you can see where that zeal like of the first is still there on the very surface level. The way she deals with the people in, again, there's a discussion of, I forget like which designer they were saying they did like a shoot in like an industrial place early in the film, where they're doing a photograph, and she's like, did you want to make it like dull and lifeless, like was that your
Yeah.
so she gets those clips in, but you can see that her heart isn't in it, and then Streep sells that really well. And
I think she
for
said something
me,
like they're like starved goats or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
walks around like starved goats, and Simone Ashley is whispering, "You can't say that." It's amazing. But it's again, the way she's snapping at Andy is also very tonally different from how it is in the first film, where you get that idea of a sort of begrudging respect, almost like that there is that that the dynamic has changed, and I think that the film does really well. I think it's come time to talk about the wet blanket that is
The
Andy
men.
Sachs's love interest. Because unfortunately that's in the film. Like I honestly think you could have cut that out entirely, because the man says one dialogue that is of any relevance to the entire film, in my opinion, which is when they're having a fight and what causes them to have a fight. But um apart from that, I'm sorry, like I genuinely, the first time he turns up, so it's he's just like kind of there, and I thought this was just like an extra, like a scene extra who's there for like a scene, and then you can't, I can't imagine you're trying to sell this guy as her love interest. Guys, what do you think? Come on, you have to be with me here. Like I was just like, you can't do this to Anne Hathaway, come on.
Yeah, that was weird actually. Even it took me like a while to, like accept that like they're actually setting them up together during that scene. And I feel like Kenneth Branagh would have like made better sense like with and had like at least looks wise and I don't know charm wise I don't know. It's so anyway like regarding the entire love interest thing. So this is what I was thinking. I was like trying to reverse engineer the script. So what I'm understood is like so in the first movie, there's this thing like this guy who is trying to hold her back, kind of a guy, or he doesn't like care about her like work life or support her. If not actively holding her back. He's like that. He reminds me of the boyfriend in like Midsummer. Like he doesn't do anything wrong as such, but he's just there. So when you do this like 20 years thing, they have to address the love life aspect of it. So they could have either gone with her like being happily married with someone or just like completely ignore that thing. But that completely ignoring that thing will be like kind of a cop out. So they had to do something that negates what happened in the first movie. So they found like a kind of a very random normal guy for like a mature relationship in the 40s or something like that and settled on it. And it is completely inconsequential to the film. So it's just there. It's part of this character's life, I guess. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there is a bit of a conservative bent to the way in which they talk about like the family values thing, like I the and the Kenneth Branagh character again, like she's just there to like completely support like Meryl Streep like at every turn, like he's like the perfect guy, and and she seems happier, and I think at some point he like when she's like at her like lowest point where like she's worried about like losing the whole thing, he consoles her by saying that you have me and you have the twins and the family. So I think for like it kind of reads has the very conventional sense of like you can't be like full until you have this aspect of the life also covered, especially if you're a woman, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but so they kind of had to like keep a love interest, and that's probably how it got there. Like, if that isn't addressed at all, people will be talking about it. Like, what happened to? Like, why is she not dating anyone? So it's like just playing the most safest way possible, I guess. But I agree that like they could have cast someone matching the caliber of Anne Hathaway. Yeah.
Vikas, can you defend the Australians on this one? Come on.
I cannot. At first, I don't understand why he had to be Australian. And his name is Patrick Brummel, by the way. I just Googled it. So, and
Okay,
he's a very
finally.
popular, and he's a very popular television actor in Australia. So I don't get it. It's pretty much like reminded me of Zoe Akhtar's Gully Boy and the whole Sky character. It unnecessary and it just unwanted. And I agree with Ashwin that I don't know why they had to, what purpose this character served to the movie or to Andy's character, because it really didn't add anything else or reveal anything else about the movie or about the character in any way. So it was just a bit weird that they made this sort of a choice, and the fact that he's and again, I'm not sure what juxtaposition they were going for, because he's this guy who looks at abandoned buildings and then sort of refurbishes them and sell it to expensive people, people who can afford it, and then she goes and finds someone, a divorced woman who's got all the money, and that money ended up saving. So I'm not sure, something didn't add up between whatever they were aiming for that. So no, I just think Andy's better off just being single and kicking goals, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, you don't have to be with someone to be a richer person, in my view, anyway. But coming back to something which Chris you mentioned, I think the Meryl Streep character is written brilliantly in this one, because towards the end she says to what Ashwin was saying, just reminded me where the Kenneth Branagh character tells her, "You've got me and the twins and the dog," and in the end she goes, she in the car when she's coming back from the Lucy Liu character's home, and she tells the Anne Hathaway character in the car that all of this comes at a price, but the fact is I really love working. And I think that was such a great summation for this character, because she does love her job, and it's okay, and it comes at a cost, and it comes at a price, and it comes at her being this very bitchy and unlikable and over ambitious and all of those things, but she loves her job and she's doing what she needs to do to get a job. So I think there was a lot of depth in the character and the writing. So, but the romance part, I think, again I think both these movies don't, none of the men come out looking great in either of the movies.
Minus Stanley Tucci, of course. He's a
Mine is
darling.
Stanley Tucci. He's the only one. He's the male character who sort of wins it, but everyone else is a pretty much wet blanket or a loser of some sort. Yeah.
No, but I disagree that the character in the first film, the love interest in the first film, holds her back. I think he works really well as a foil to her, because the entire idea is that she hates this world, finds it vain, and she keeps assimilating into it. And I think he's got a very good line in that film. I think that, again, though he functions for one line, unfortunately, but it's that, do what you want, but do it with integrity. Like, when they have a fight in the first film, and they have sort of go on a break, and then she goes to Paris. He's like, it's okay for you to like this, but have a little bit of integrity about it. Believe, accept that you enjoy this. Don't try to sort of, both sides the thing. And I think that does function into her change of heart in Paris and all of that. In this, it's just like, yeah, he says, like, your job is just like mine for real, or something like that. And that's supposed to give her
Which
an
somehow offends
epiphany.
her, and that was funny, and I don't know what.
And also, like, even like the conservatism, definitely. I mean, like, the final thing that Emily Blunt also says about a character is like, I don't know where I'm going to find a patron from, which is a very interesting way to phrase the thing. Though obviously Anne Hathaway gives her the no, it's okay, that kind of a thing. And also, to Vic's point about Streep, I think fundamentally what makes both of these films work is that at the end of the day, they are deeply empathetic to Miranda Priestly. I think the fact that the first film she's not the villain of the first film, she's an anti-hero. I think that is the big distinction that makes the Devil Wears Prada work so well and not absolutely like sort of fall into caricature is that the film, like the book has been very often criticized for Weisberger framing Winter as this tyrant who had nothing redeemable about her, etc., etc. But it makes sense why Andy goes to care so much for Miranda at the end of both films, right? Because it's not just her work ethic or this or that. There's something about her that she's not there just because she's there. She is a woman who has navigated these really complicated fields and come out as excellent as she is, and it comes at a price for sure. But the film understands that it, that she is also, human at the end of the day, and she might seem all of these things, but she has this ambition and passion. And the second film humbles her for obviously the cost that it has, but it fundamentally understands that, this is a work that she loves, and doing it fulfills her, and that there's value in that. It can be done in better ways, and you can treat people around you better, but that doesn't mean that what she does isn't still immensely valuable. Per se. Yeah. Any other thoughts, per se? I had one more question, but any other thoughts about the film in general?
Um,
I think I found because I do know people like this. It was interesting when you said that the Emily Blunt character says, "Where else am I going to find a patron like this one?" But a lot of women in real life do feel that. They do define themselves by the men around them. And that's how they value their self-worth and self-esteem. So I think when the Andy character responds by saying that you don't need anyone was not a pep talk. She genuinely was just giving her that reassurance that she's iconic. And that's what she wanted to hear. And that's why she wanted to meet her and say that I wanted to be friends with you, because she knew that this is the kind of a person who will give me the truth. And even when the Miranda Priestley character tells you you're just a vendor, and you can see Blunt's face almost like broken and just completely, ashen, and because there's some truth in that. So it really is a very good observatory look at women in general. At least, and I know women like this in real life who are not exactly like them working in those industries, but who probably have this sort of view of themselves and the way they think the world views them. So it is actually, yes, I think the writing is really good, but yes, there is a bit of naivety as well, but there is depth. Where there's depth, there's plenty.
Ashwin, any other thoughts?
Yeah, like Vic brought up like the time critically. I was just checking it. Stephanie Zagrak, yeah, she wrote that this film is like kind of like the Leopard of fashion industry. The Leopard is the 1960 movie by Luchino Visconti. It's a movie about an aristocrat who's like wistfully looking at his past glory. Like he's aging. He's in his middle ages, and he's it's played by Lancaster, and there is Alain Delon and Claudia Cardinal in the movie. They're like the younger generation, and he's just looking at what he has lost to time. So that's the whole movie is about. So this it's like uh, it's a great movie. So I was like a bit like, shocked when someone mentioned that in the context of this movie before I watched the movie. And I do get that it's a bit of like a high compliment to give to this. But there's this moment in the film where like in Milan, like Miranda walks out onto the plaza, and like she just looks around. It's a very melancholic moment where she's like looking at all the things that like all like they go there all the time, so that feeling of like loss, and it kind of moved me. And when I saw that, it kind of I kind of agree with like her criticism that like it is kind of like the leopard of fashion industry, because like it looks at how the industry has changed so much over the years. Like I don't know anything about the industry, but I can see how generally like print media and journalism has changed. And I get that how a character of her stature might be feeling right now. And I really like that moment. Like her like in the middle of the plaza with all the night lights and everything.
And all the brands, you can see Louis Vuitton there,
Yes.
you can see Gucci
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
very well shot. Yeah.
It's a very good shot, yeah.
Yeah, I think generally quite well shot also. I thought the film was. I think it adapts it. I mean, that was one of my big fears when I saw the trailer originally. I was like, this looks like like a Prime movie to me a little bit. How the trailer was cut at least, but I think it really sets it in, like, you see the difference. Like, this is a film about 2026, and the original also has that kind of very 2006 sort of feel to it, outside the fashion, the way that it's short and everything. I think, fortunately, this does not go down the TV movie kind of a route, and it, uses its colors well, it uses its cinematography really well, in that sense. But one thing I have to mention, putting Lady Gaga for your big cameo, iconic. I'm sorry, she's just, I think she's perfect for a film like this. I'm not sure if I love her song very much. The
It's very
not the one she
forgettable.
sings. Yeah, I mean, the one she sings is also very, it's like any track off of Mayhem, basically, reskinned. Even the one song she has with Dochi, I think, is a bit iffy.
Runway. Yeah.
Runway, yeah. I found it like very mid 2010s. I mean, I was like, this is like a Born This Way retread, but in like the pop, like the fat girl boss pop kind of a retread, which I was like, that's odd. But I think she's got the one scene in it, and she's so good. I'm a big fan of hers. So
Same.
definitely. And so I had another big question, I think, which to me,
Yeah.
which is like, I don't know, and I don't know what you guys think about it, which is to me the ending of the film, which is how it decides to conclude its sort of arc about where the industry is going. What did you make of it? What do you think it's trying to say with it? Because I am a bit conflicted about it. Maybe you guys have seemed much more sympathetic to its ambitions. What do you think they're trying to say? I mean, the what happens to the company ending per se? Yeah. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it before. Like, it's a bit too neat, uh, but I think within the confines of this genre, like they can't do like what do you say, big realistic commentary as such. But even so, what happens is like they defeat the evil billionaire and sell the company to another billionaire, but a lesser evil kind of a billionaire.
A woman billionaire also to
Woman
note.
millionaire, of course, who divorced from like Jeff Bezos kind of figure. So sure. But I think again there is in the there's a moment in the car where like Miranda says, "For now, we have the artistic control." Like, so that I think that for now is kind of underlined there. Like as of now, like it hasn't been sold for parts, and they have found a pattern as such, like who is willing to give them the creative control as of now. So I think it is a pretty good moment to end the film on. Like they're not saying it's done. Like we've all joined forces together and defeated the enemy or anything. There's that very chilling monologue thing that Justin Theroux gives in that Last Supper hall, where he says, like, like AI is coming, like, we can't just give up, like, when technology comes, we just succumb to it. So it is aware of all the threats and gravity of the situation, but within the confines of this, like, this escapist comedy, they have to end it somewhere. And this, like, if you see all these movies, like even in the first film, you said like it's the same kind of beats, like there is a crisis and they're like solving it together over a part or somehow. So if you see like a heist kind of a thing, this is like one of their missions, I would say. And they just finished that mission for now. It's not like it's all done, like this is how we defeated. I don't think the film, like, is saying that like you can just find a good billionaire and solve the problems. um so I'm kind of okay with that ending.
I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this movie, or maybe I'm just like wanted to like it more. To me, this was very reflective of real time, because I was thinking watching it like this is runways like Warner Brothers, and Paramount is like that Justin Thoreau character, and there's Netflix, and how at the BJ Novak character is like the David as Zaslav character, and they want to sell Paramount, they want to sell Warner Brothers, and Paramount is like the big shark, and Netflix is there, and it kind of sort of is sort of in a way representing that consolidation is the only way going forward. And what consolidation means is compromise to integrity of journalism and artistic freedom, and AI sort of taking over, and the bottom line profit, and everything is going to come across. So the fact that she tells that, and the usage of the word "for now" we've got artistic freedom, goes to say that we live in an industry, artists, no matter whether it's fashion, like like Louis, like Tom Ford has now been acquired by the same people who own Louis Vuitton, which is ridiculous to me. But yeah, there's still, so that for now is sort of to say that whatever danger it is, whether you're in fashion or in movies, you avoid it. It's for now, but then let's just see what happens, kind of a thing. So I think to me that was reflective of contemporary times. But then there could just be me trying to make sense of it all, and there could just be lazy writing. I don't know, but at least that's what I kind of maybe that's what I wanted to be reflective of. So yeah.
No, I totally get that, and I'm very sympathetic to both of your arguments. And I do think that the for now is a certain awareness. I just felt like the film was succumbing to a little bit of girl bossery, which I think it has very distinctly avoided so far. I think that is why I adore the end of the first film so much, because it really it does that sort of, it's girl bossery derogatory, right? Like it shows what it takes for Miranda Priestley to be there, but also that is not a good, like at the cost of it is not a good thing to do. And Andy Sachs realizes what it means to walk away, but also the fact that Miranda Priestley is a sensible enough or this enough person to give a recommendation for Sachs' character. So I think there is a certain there's a certain ending to that works really poetically to me, which I think here there is a certain, I think because the entire heart of the drama has changed from the actions, particularly of the characters, of like what their personal morality or nothing is not what at stake. Miranda Priestley or Andy Sachs, because they sort of unite and they get all of that together. It's the kind of Blunt versus these two that becomes more of the conflict. I just think that it again, I think it's self-aware of it a little bit, but I felt a bit like, okay, this is something that you had very well avoided so far, but like you've succumbed, like you couldn't figure out another way to kind of get out of this place that you put it in, so you're succumbing to a bit of girl bossery. At least that's how I
Yeah.
read it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like as you said, like first movie ends with like a sting of realism. Like you lose something to gain something. But here it's like all the good characters are like getting like, something good out of it. It's a bit too neat. And even after the whole bidding war thing, Emily and like Andy are becoming friends, and they even tied that up nicely. This is the part that I don't really care for. Yeah, it's a bit of a lazy writing, I guess.
Yeah. But another question is, how many of the cameos did you guys recognize in the film? I want to know how in on the culture
I
are
am
you
terrible
folks?
at this. Okay, we can't count Gaga.
Huh.
Other than that, John Baptiste and Donatella Versace.
Okay.
That's it. That's
Vic.
it. I don't know anyone else.
Okay, I recognize John Clooney's villa in Lake Como because I saw his wedding pictures. So I was like, okay, this looks familiar. Of course, John Batiste, Kara Swisher, because I listened to a podcast, Tina Brown, John Bastide, obviously, Donatella Versace, Mark Jacobs makes a cameo, Jay Roche makes a cameo. If I remember, I saw Naomi Campbell making a fleeting appearance. Uh, uh, who else? I'm sure I can't remember at the moment, but I'm sure I spotted one or two more
I saw
famous
Heidi Klum,
cameos.
I think, at some
Heidi Klum
point.
was there, yeah.
I
Hmm.
saw a Wisdom K, if anyone's aware, is a famous YouTuber and fashion personality. He was there in it. Yeah, La Roche I saw. I think the other ones you guys have noted, but like Tomi Adeyemi, the writer, she's also there at some point. But yeah, they went, like they called every
They
number.
called everyone they
They,
could, yeah.
this is the Diwangi of Hollywood, basically.
It was
See, this
good
is
though.
why
It
I
was
come to
really
this
good.
podcast. I know none of these people actually to learn from you, man. And no, Low Roach, like I know him, but when is this?
This is, I think most of the big cameos are
Hamptons
either, no, La Roche
The
is in the
party at the
party.
Hamptons
Not, no, the Irv's birthday party. That's
birthday
where you
party.
see him.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was birthday party.
They
Yeah,
use those as the two big moments. I think Milan, I don't think there are as many because they give it to
no,
Gaga.
Yeah.
But I think the Hampton sequence and the Irv's birthday party, that's where there's like everybody's there for like a single like
single
shot.
second. Yeah,
Amelia, I forget, I don't know how to say her last name. The
Yes,
lady
I know her, the Moldenberg or whatever. Like,
yeah.
sorry. I mean, yeah, I recognize her. And is there a basketball player or someone? I don't know.
Yes. She
Yeah.
says you had a great season or so. I don't know anything
Yeah,
about
that's
basketball.
why I know it's a sport person, but I don't. I have no idea who that is. Looks like
Yeah,
none of you.
But they gave Amelia like that chicken shop date gag, and but I think very famously Sweeney was also supposed to be in it, who got cut.
It
Yeah,
got cut.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it's always joy to watch Lucy Liu. I always think she's a very, very watchable and interesting actor.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, she hasn't got great material, but when she does, apart from like Kill Bill or whatever, but she's very, very. It's just good to see her. She's just great to watch on screen.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
in that Soderbergh movie last year. That the ghost movie.
Presence.
Presence.
Yeah,
Presence.
presence. Yeah, she's pretty good in that.
Yeah. Also, thoughts on the fashion, because we are talking about Devil Wears Prada. Ashwin, do you have
This is
any
this
thoughts on the fashion in the film?
this is not fair. But yeah, sure, yeah. HUK and me.
Any fits you remember? Anything that stuck out to you? Come on, be a
Me?
sport. Yeah.
No. Uh, what do I remember? I genuinely don't remember anything.
Do you remember at least you're washing her dress with hand soap in the sink?
Ah, yes. Oh, I remember that dress. Yes. Like
That
it it's just squares of colors. I don't know what it means.
It was
Give me
supposed to
the
be
set name, but
expensive.
I was
Yeah.
Vic, you any outfits?
I have to say, I mean, I don't know the outfit. There were some which were striking, like the trench coat Miranda Priestley wears when she goes to the Milan Fashion One. The Simone Ashley character I thought was the best dressed.
Hmm.
I knew Emily Blunt's custom Dior outfits because my sister is a fan of Dior, so I kind of knew. So I was familiar with some of those ones. But if I had to like pick one, it would be the Simone Ashley's character. She wears this tie, and when she goes
Yes.
to
Okay, that stood out to
that
me.
was an interesting one. Yeah, and she goes, "Who gives up Chanel?" And then that was a very striking. I'm from Melbourne, and Melbourne, everyone like. I don't know how much of your listeners know about Melbourne, but everyone's very switched on fashion wise. Everyone's always well dressed, so that was quite a Melbourne moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say I was actually not a big fan of Ashley's styling, unfortunately. Not my kind. I think it's very modern in the approach it goes for. It's not my thing. Custom Dior pieces for Emily Blunt were amazing. Jonathan Anderson, who is the stylist for a designer who works with the Ashwin and my favorite Luca Guadagnino, is the creative director for Dior. So his I mean I don't know how involved he is, but like in general, the work that Dior's been doing in the last since he took over, and he was at Loewe before, has been really, really good. I liked a lot of the Milan looks in general.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I liked. I mean, I'm surprised that I liked the color blocked dress that she wears to the Hamptons, which is it's a choice, but I think it's very
It's a
interesting.
choice, but it's interesting that that's supposed to be very expensive because I thought that was like a Zara thing for like $50 or whatever, but apparently it's very. But then what do I know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I forget that it's by a pretty prominent designer. I forget which one though. And yeah, I think I don't know which style of fashion I'm more sympathetic to, because there are some looks in the first film that I find utterly hideous, including one which they mention in the film actually, the paperboy caps, which is the fit that Andy wears when Miranda Priestley asks her to come to Paris with her. She's in like a Chanel paperboy cap, and I'm just like that. Simone Ashley was going after that. I'm like, yeah, that's one look I don't like from the first film. But I definitely think they maintain the kind of sleekness. I think my favorite detail is at the very end of the film. The last time you see Anne Hathaway, she's wearing a blue sweater. Or
Hmm.
I don't think that's a cerulean sweater. It might be, but it's some shade of blue, which is I think a really nice way to sort of sign the film off.
I
Um,
I didn't notice anything at the time, but I've seen like screenshots of like that side by side with the
Mm.
cerulean sweater. So I'm like, it kind of looks like that.
yeah, unfortunately, my understanding of color is also a lot closer to Andy's than it is to
Yeah,
Miranda.
for
So
me it's all blue. So like, yeah,
I mean, again, they do that reference as well, right? I think, yeah, someone
the
passed,
belts,
like she
right?
passes, yeah, the
Yeah, yeah,
belts.
yeah. I
She
noticed
passes,
that, and the whole floral for spring thing.
Mm.
yeah, for Rose Whistle. But she's like passing by like a farmer's
Yeah,
market or something, and
right.
a guy is
And she's
holding up.
doing the holding up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think again, any other thoughts on the film? I think before
Oh, I
we
just
can.
remember the one
Yeah.
cameo that I did recognize was one of my
Yes.
favorite designer, Brunello Cucinelli. He was there fleetingly for like
Yes.
5 seconds, and I was like, yes, because he's currently my favorite designer in the world. So yes,
Ooh,
absolutely.
interesting. I'm very biased to Tom Brown, Tom Ford, and Ralph Lauren. They're my
Oh,
um
same. Tom Ford and Ralph Lauren is like classic for ever, but
yeah.
Laura and Guccielli have suddenly spiked in the last few years. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. My interest is in actually very adding to more stuff for Dhruv to get make fun of me at. My interest is in a lot of classic men's tailoring. So I think these three designers do it really well. But women, I think minus I think Schiaparelli, which has been annoying me a little bit recently. I think a lot of which actually
Why?
Emily
Schiaparelli is good.
Schiaparelli is good. Schiaparelli's work with Tiana Taylor is fantastic.
Even
Um,
Brad Pitt in F1, he's wearing a lot of Schiaparelli, great sweatshirts and stuff and
Yeah, I'm
jumpers.
not
Yeah.
as logged into Schiaparelli men's. I know because I know Emily Blunt wore a Schiaparelli couture dress to the premiere, which I was not the biggest fan of. But
Okay, fine.
anyways, any other thoughts before we start wrapping up?
No,
Do you
that's it
think,
actually.
okay, what do you think this movie will do box office wise? Like critically, it's kind of pretty good. It's not been mixed or it's been above
It's
average
good
most of the
actually.
critical
Like
response.
Rotten Tomato score is like slightly above the original, I guess, like
Yeah,
79.
78, 78, 79,
And
and
box office is it's doing really well, actually, surprisingly well. I
do you
think
think it'll
it's
cross
already
200
made like
million?
making 200 million this week
Oh, wow. 200 million this week in opening
worldwide. Yeah,
weekend.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Wow.
this weekend it'll cross 200 million worldwide. So
Okay,
it's gonna
that's
make some around 500 for sure, I think. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe.
I
that
wonder,
would be amazing.
is this
Yeah.
isn't this a kind of film that has died a little bit in general? Like I can't think like because like I was thinking of like what are the kind of films I can take my mom to, who's not a big fan of like any kind of like I think the last thing I sent her to was Project Hail Mary, which okay, she's a physics major, so she really likes it. She enjoyed it. But my mom famously does not like Barbie. So apart from that, I was like, what? I don't know how many of this kind of minus the kind of again the legacy sequel, Freaky or Friday, and all that kind of stuff, which again I've not seen. Do you think there's a kind of, or do you think that this is filling in like a demand that has been lacking, hence that it's going to earn well, kind of a thing, or is it just nostalgia or marketing or
No,
whatever?
it's got an inbuilt audience. Like it's
Yeah.
nostalgia audience plus the cult audience plus the second generation audience. So everyone who missed it in 2006 watched it in 2016 and then watched it in COVID, and then everyone who didn't watch it in all those years watched it in the past couple of years because of the marketing campaign has been weird completely but successful. Like you could argue on its merits, but it's done what it's meant to do. More people have talked about this movie and shared stories and memes about this movie. So I think after 20 years, if it's going to do 200 million at the worldwide box office, as Ashwin was saying, that's pretty remarkable. Like, no offense to Paul Thomas Anderson, but one battle after another, after its 100,000 nominations and awards, couldn't even get past whatever 160 mil worldwide, whatever it ended up making. So with Leonardo
Up to 100.
DiCaprio
Yeah.
at its lead. So I am all in the bank with all my stocks for Devil Wears Prada too.
What
Totally.
is this PTA slander right now?
It's not a slander, but it's like now that I don't want to get. I know it could be a sensitive topic. I was one of the one who loved. On rewatching it a few times, I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have gotten too excited about it the first two times, but that's a whole different conversation altogether. Yeah.
Interesting. No, but very funny because we were having a whole discussion about box office numbers just before you joined because there's a new Mammootty Mohanlal film out and there's a lot of box office politics between Mammootty and Mohanlal. So I love the love
Oh my
the
God. Wait till
PTA
Ramayan
slang.
comes out. Can you imagine how much we have to bear with on internet will be insufferable when that movie comes out. And I thought Dhurandhar 2's box office was bad, but this is Ramayan is going to kill us all. There you go.
So
In terms of the box office, so don't message me. Like Ramayan is great. Yeah.
Let's hope some other global calamity gets at us before that comes. I'm going to steer us off this before Dhruv again starts
Yes.
bitching
right,
at me
Yes.
right.
again.
Please.
Uh,
Yes.
But as requested, any of you have any film recommendations that are similar to The Devil Wears Prada, or anybody who enjoys these films, any other films you'd recommend to them? Vic, I'm gonna throw it to you.
I mean, not necessarily about like fashion industry. I can't think. I mean, there's Pret a Potter and those kind of movies that came at a certain point in time, and Phantom Thread. But again, that's a whole different. But against the fashion. But in this sort of frothy cinema, there's a lot of movies like 27 Dresses. Katherine Heigl did a bunch of movies which were in the similar genre. Reese did Legally Blonde, and she did a bunch of other movies as well, and. So yeah, there are movies. If you're looking for frothy cinema, then yes, there are plenty in the 2000s and late 90s that sort of came out. Like like Amy Adams is Enchanted, kind of similar ones. Very, very, very watchable, charismatic leads. All the problems get solved pretty quickly. Everyone gets along. The worst crisis are averted. Everyone's happy, naivety. But there's a sincerity. And I always like anytime my friends like will tell me that, oh, they kind of frown on Devil Wears Prada. I'm like, you have no right. If you love Dil To Pagal Hai and Veer Zara and Rab De Bana Di Jodi and you want to defend them and champion them, don't come for these movies. No patience, no conversations. But that's just my own take on those ones. So yeah.
That's valid. Ashwin?
Yeah, so fashion-wise, I can't think of anything. As Vic said, the frothy 2000, escapist workplace rom-com kind of a thing. I would say there's this movie called Morning Glory.
Yes.
This Alan Brosh McKenna wrote it, starring Rachel McAdams and Harrison Ford and Diane Keaton. And it's kind of a very similar thing. She's this like very sprightly, like Anne Hathaway, Andy character, and Harrison Ford is like the Miranda, like grumpy boss. It's a very fun time, like something
How
like
good
this,
is
but it
Rachel
just
McAdams in it? She's
she's
so
oh
good
my
in it. My
God,
God, she's
she's
brilliant in it. Yeah.
incredible in it. So that's one thing, and I think I mentioned How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, like
And this.
earlier in the episode. It's similar vibes. And again, if you go by the workplace, women in the workplace thing, you can go back to the 80s for the 9 to 5 with Jane Fonda, Dolly Parton, and Lily Tomlin. It's a very fun workplace comedy. Again, like very feminist workplace comedy kind of thing. So I can think of those two films. So
Interesting.
handing
Yeah.
over to the fashion expert.
No, I mean, because Dhruv made the joke, I have to recommend Madan Bhandarkar's
Fashion.
Fashion. Ka hai ye jalwa. Indeed.
Listen,
If that is a
if you're bringing up fashion, when Priyanka Chopra wakes up in bed with an African American guy, I think that is a moment. Nothing has been more offensive on screen in the history of cinema than that to me. But anyway, yes.
no, entirely. I think I have just like erased that film from my memory because again, I probably watched it on TV when I was way too young for it. So I have very very like kind of odd memories of it. But I think for me, workplace, Anne Hathaway, also Nancy Myers. I'm gonna say The Intern.
Intern, yeah, good one.
Actually, one thing that it combats, and I was talking about this to someone else as well, is one of the problem with the film, like Devil Wears Prada, a lot of the films of the genre is they don't really know how to write like male female friendships. Heterosexual male female friendships without it being like a gay best friend and things like that. Obviously, Tucci's character is not explicitly gay in this, but it's very much coded that way. But I think The Intern is just a really fun film that explores a really good friendship, and Hathaway is very good and Robert De Niro is very good. Someday I hope we do get that remake, but at this point, God only knows. The Hindi remake, which is supposed to star Deepika Padukone and Amitabh Bachchan, but I don't know what's happening to Bollywood anymore, so probably better if they don't make it at this point. So yeah, I think that's the one film I can think of the top of my head. There's a lot of like stuff from the 2000s, yeah, in general,
Yeah.
that's really fun. But yeah, I think we're good with that. Anything else, guys? Uh, okay, then I think that's it
How many
for this.
stars would everyone give it? I give it 4 stars in my review. Let's end on that.
That's
Interesting,
great.
Ashwin.
I haven't given it yet. I'm going to give 3.5 with a heart,
Okay.
which makes a
Uh,
big difference.
Okay. No, but also tell how much did you give the first film? That's the interesting contrast to
Same
know. Like,
thing. I mean, it's like I couldn't decide between 3.5 and 4. When I can't decide, I give the lower rating. This
okay.
one, I couldn't decide between 3 and 3.5, but I'm like feeling generous.
Okay. Vic, how much have you given the first one?
Look, in 2026, both movies 4 stars for me. Back in 2006, I would probably given it 3, but I appreciate it a lot more because I think the cultural impact this has, I didn't realize how much it was and how much I have liked it as well. So
Yeah.
I don't have any issues with like I'm giving it a lot more concession than I normally would, but yeah. So obviously it's spoken to. I'm probably on the not on the fence. I'm on the camp of the movie. So yeah, 4 stars for both.
I gave the first a 3.5 and a heart, which is on the last rewatch. I think I would give this a 3 and a heart. I think it's good, and I do really like it, but it doesn't fulfill that what the charm the first one has for me. But no, it's a really fun time. This is definitely the kind of film that you can very much, like Ashwin said, get drunk with your friends and enjoy. Again, it depends on which one you find more rewatchable. I think that's an interesting question to ask because I have found a lot of people who do prefer the second to the first because they think it says something more poignant, etc., etc. But we'd love to know your thoughts on the matter, listeners. I think with that, we can call it for the day. Thank you so much, Vikas and Ashwin, for joining me for this conversation. I had a really fun time. Ashwin, you really need to brush up on your fashion for next time. This is very disappointing. Come on.
Agreed, agreed. I will. I mean, I think the only person I know is Tom Ford because he makes movies and he's kind of hot, I guess. But like, I will. I'll make an effort.
You'll make an effort because I know if the other guys are here, they would very explicitly say, no, I don't care and I'm not making an effort, but I expect better from you. Come on. Um, you can find links to all of our letterboxes and socials. You know where to find them. And look forward to a lot of interesting episodes we have coming up. Especially, I think the next you'll be hearing us talk about Patriot, the Mammootty Mohanlal film that's out. Very, 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 very unrelated to this. But thank you for listening and khatam.